Facebook and YouTube. So 1 second here, and we'll go. Here we go.
I use some really powerful guys to try to save as much money in taxes as I can, but I'll tell you, I pay way too much probably. So
You mentioned that
yeah,
stock, and I couldn't help but pass that up. Now you bought a stock at 22 cents, right? And it's $20. That's insane, right? We're doing a
yeah.
Tesla stock sale right now, where somebody bought Tesla like at 200 grand and it's worth $1 million. But when they go to sell it, they're hit with this huge capital gains tax. So would you walk us through either the frustration or the challenge when it comes to selling, buying something low or seeing something explode, and then that 30 to 50% in tax? How do you approach that? What tax deferral strategies have you looked at or done? Walk us through just your philosophy on that and diversification, if that makes sense. That's a big question, but
Yeah,
hopefully that
so
makes sense.
I mean, I'm a firm believer of an amazing dream team, and so I'm involved with dozens of companies. And the one thing that I promised all my financial guys is I'm not going to meddle too much in these arenas. So normally, if I were answering questions about this, I would probably have one of my tax guys here because, yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say I pay a lot of taxes. I mean, it's crazy. The one thing that I try to do when it comes to capital gains is if there's it all depends on the classifications, and so if it's a straight I bought the stock and I'm selling the stock at a higher price, sometimes you just got to pay the tax, but there are ways that if you take the tax, if you take the stock in a different form, sometimes you can have better outcomes on the tax side. So I know that there's consulting stock, there's other ways that you can position yourself inside some of these relationships, and some of them are hardcore. If you got the stock this way, you're just going to be paying the tax. But we like to take a look at the most creative structures possible, and so I'm going to tell you that I use some really powerful guys to try to save as much money in taxes as I can. But I'll tell you, I pay way too much probably. So.
All right, everybody, it's a little intro there for you. And this is Brett Swartz, founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. I'm excited for you to be here. And in particular, we're covering a topic where most people just either don't know about or haven't been exposed to. And it's deferring capital gains tax on the sale of a highly appreciated primary home, investment property. It can also be public stock, private stock. It can be a business, and not using a 1031 exchange. And so we're going to teach you something here, which I think can add tremendous value if you're a business professional, and if you're particularly if you're a realtor who helps people sell, again, high-end primary homes, or a commercial real estate broker who helps people sell investment real estate. This presentation is for you. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to dive right in, and and also any comments or any questions along the way, feel free to ask them. But this title of this presentation is the 3 secrets of unlocking a transformational wealth plan or exit plan for high net worth clients so you can win more listings. Okay. So it's going to be centered around an actual deal that I closed recently, to help how I helped Maxine to find relief to downsize from her primary home when she sold it for $3.1 million, and she saved around $350,000 of capital gains tax without doing a 1031 exchange or having to use her 121 exclusion. Okay, so this is me. I'm Brett Swartz. I'm the founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions, and we are on a mission to help people escape feeling trapped by capital gains tax, and or empower business professionals like realtors, financial advisors, business brokers on how to help their clients do the same, so they can help them create and preserve more wealth, and so they can actually grow their business. As a quick legal disclaimer, I am neither a CPA nor a tax professional. I am actually a commercial real estate broker by trade, and learned about this about 10 years ago, and I became a trustee, and so now I kind of coach and help people with these transactions, and also do sell real estate as well. But we strongly encourage everyone to seek their own independent advice from CPAs or their own trusted professionals. And so let's start with the perfect storm that's actually facing a lot of your clients. So if you're a realtor listening to this, and you have you're looking at helping clients to sell their high-end primary home or again, or investment real estate, there's a huge thing that's facing the baby boomer population. In fact, according to the American Bankers Association, there's about $17 trillion of assets that will pass from one generation to the next in the next 20 years. And this is known as the largest wealth transfer in the history of the planet. In fact, there's about 77 million baby boomers alone in the U.S. that's starting to retire, and about 10,000 of them are turning 65 every single day. And what are they challenged with? Well, they're challenged not only with very high taxation, but also high appreciation, especially the last 10 years. Why is that? Well, interest rates are hovering near 40-year lows, which is a challenge. It's an opportunity for higher prices, but it's a challenge for the appreciation. Also, the 1031 exchange is very, very restrictive. It does not work for high-end primary homes as well. Inventory is very limited. So even if you had an investment property to 1031, you're kind of selling high and buying higher, which we're going to go here in a minute. So this is the big transfer. And how are you going to help your clients? How are you going to position yourself to be a guide and to add value in this big challenging perfect storm that they're facing? And so again, let's define a little bit more what the storm is. Well, first of all, they feel trapped. They feel trapped in this storm because they are reluctant to sell because of the capital gains tax. And what does that amount? Well, it could be somewhere between 33 and 50%. It could be a little bit lower too, depending on the state they live in. It could be as low as 25% on some deals, depending on the deal they're selling. But in general, we found with the depreciation recapture, the state of 20%, the federal of 20%, the state of whatever the state might be, and then the Obamacare tax, you're looking at, typically it's pretty close to 30%, as much as 50%. But every single day, high net worth individuals, they pay capital gains tax when they sell their business, commercial real estate, or primary home where they don't have to. In fact, they can defer it all and keep it working for them, and this is what we're going to teach you, okay? So Maxine, about a year and a half ago, was in your position learning about the Deferred Sales Trust for the first time, and that's the tool we use, that's the mechanism, that's the strategy, not to be confused with a Delaware statutory trust, which gives the opportunity to be able to defer the tax. And so what did she want? Well, she wanted to be able to pay off her debt. She had a debt of over $1 million on this property, okay? This is a home she's lived in for a very long time. In fact, it's just a few miles from Apple headquarters. And if you can imagine living next to Apple before it was big or really took off, and then they build a $5 billion campus just a few miles from your house, how much appreciation can go up. And that's what's happened in the Silicon Valley for a lot of these cities that are neighboring these big, large tech companies. And so not only does she want to sell it, but she wanted to pay off her debt. You see, it was a non-income producing asset. It was a liability. You know, she owned it. Kids are gone. Big house, highly appreciated. But beyond that, she owed a big tax. It was about $350,000 beyond her 121 exclusion. So understanding if you buy something low and you live there the last 5 years, if you're single, you get a 250 exclusion. If you're married, 500. But above and beyond that, you have no more tax relief unless you do some kind of tax deferral strategy, hence the Deferred Sales Trust. So she wanted to pay off debt. She wanted to pay off her tax. She wanted to sell but not have to pay the tax. She also wanted to retire and downsize from her large home and then unlock that equity to go invest into other investments. She wanted liquidity, diversification, and she wanted to trade the illiquid non-cash flow producing asset and move it into cash flow producing assets. If you ever study the book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about your house being actually a liability, not an investment, because it's not producing cash flow. Although it may appreciate, defining an asset as something that's outside, that's producing cash flow to you is the way he defines it. And I like that. And for a lot of folks too, they feel real estate rich or they feel primary home rich, but cash flow poor, right? They have these increasing medical expenses, increasing cost of living expenses. They're retiring or are retired, and they're looking for cash flow, and they don't want to do reverse mortgages, and they don't want to take on a bunch of debt, and they don't want to be subject to the market cycles of the highs and the lows, and also not being diversified, all of their asset or all of their equities tied to a single property. And so with the Deferred Sales Trust, she found a solution. She not only sold her house, paid off all her debt, deferred all the capital gains tax, but she now has the funds liquid, invested in a conservative portfolio of one of the top money managers in America, and with her financial advisor. She never has to invest in real estate ever again if she doesn't want to, but she might. So who is this presentation for? It's for anyone who has clients who have a highly appreciated primary home, subject to capital gains tax, but that house or that home needs to be worth at least $1.5 million, net of all debt, all closing costs. So if it's worth $2.5 million and they have $1 million of debt, then it works. If it's worth $1.5 million but they have $1 million of debt, it's $500,000. It does not work. Okay, so it needs to be at least $1.5 million. So we're probably talking more of the luxury type of homes or the coastal cities. The places that just have a really high price. We just did a deal. One of the biggest deals actually was a $26 million home in Newport Beach. The couple deferred $6 million in capital gains tax using the Deferred Sales Trust. We did the home in Cupertino. That was a $3.1 million sale, and she deferred about $350,000 of tax. So it just has to be big enough. Or they have a different asset. Maybe they're selling an investment property, a business, and it's worth $1 million or more, okay? And the reason that the difference between 1.5 and the 1 is because of that 121 exclusion, right? If you've married, that's an extra 500. If you're single, it's 250, and that's the part where it's not as valuable for the primary home seller, okay, if it's not big enough. All right, so what is a deferred sales trust? Let's dive right into this, okay? A deferred sales trust is just an installment sale. It actually goes back to IRC 453. It's a 90-year-old tax law. And you know it if you're a realtor as a seller carryback. So if you carry paper on a property, or a client does, they don't owe tax on that. It's also known as I think like a land trust, right? Where you're basically saying, look, I'm going to sell you something, but I'm going to become the lender, and the buyer is going to put their own down payment. We're not going to maybe involve a bank. And if you do it in that order, you don't owe any tax on what you haven't received yet, okay? And why would someone need it for your wealth plan? By the way, we're not just a traditional installment sale. We're a specialized one, which gives you all kinds of cool stuff, which we're going to talk about here right now. But why would you need one for your wealth plan? Well, besides diversification, besides being able to sell your highly appreciated asset, you have to try to understand kind of an old way of doing things versus the new way. And I want you to think about Blockbuster, and this is going to be our analogy throughout the presentation. Blockbuster was the way, right? You could go there and get your new rental, or you get the DVD, but eventually it kind of went out. And that's kind of like the old way of like the 1031 exchange, or the old way of deferring tax, which for most primary homeowners, luxury homeowners, they weren't. They were just paying the tax. And that's not good, right? It's very restrictive, the 1031 in particular. Whereas the new way is unrestrictive. You can actually invest in whatever you want to, when you want to. You can receive a payment stream back. You can get out of debt. You don't have to go into like-kind real estate. And that's pretty awesome, okay? And so let's dive right into that. So the 1031 exchange for the realtors who are listening is probably what you've heard of or you've used before for clients. And by the way, that's my story. I was at Marcus & Millichap helping people buy and sell commercial real estate. So I've done lots of 1031 exchanges. And I'm still a multifamily broker here in Sacramento. But the biggest thing for our clients that I found was this timing deadline, right? They feel like they're running around to find a deal. We call it the forced marriage. They're just sprinting to find a deal within 45 days and having to get married within 180. And a lot of them were getting tired of feeling pressured and rushed and forced to make 45-day decisions and closing in 180. And they oftentimes were selling high and buying higher. And our parents taught us to sell high and buy low. They didn't teach us to sell high and buy higher 180 days later. And that's too often what the 1031 forced tutoring my clients to do. So the Deferred Sales Trust, on the other hand, you don't have to do that anymore. In fact, you don't have any time guidelines. And you don't even have to go back into real estate. And also you get what's called a brand new depreciation schedule, which is really important. It offsets the income that's coming in for cash flow on an asset such as a business or real estate. Now, depreciation travels with the 1031, again, only if you're selling investment real estate. So if you're fully depreciated, if you own something for 27 and a half years, you run out of depreciation, which is not good. You lose out on one of the top benefits of owning real estate. So the essence of what we're about is helping people to not be this guy, right? To buy high. We don't want to buy high. We want to buy low, right? And that is the key. The 1031 is not friendly to that. And so as a quick background, I educate realtors, financial advisors, but I wasn't always, I actually was on the other side of things for a long time. I was actually brand new, and I started out in 2006 at a company called Marcus & Millichap, and that was my beginning of my real estate brokerage career. And I specialized in investment real estate sales, and was able to learn about the 1031 exchange on about day 3. So I've sold about $88 million of investment real estate over the years, including multifamily, retail, office, land, senior housing. And I've also invested personally in syndications over the years. So I've done countless 1031 exchanges, Delaware Statutory Trust, and Deferred Sales Trust. And I've also have held my Series 22 and 63 license. And I just speak and educate people. It's one of my passions is to coach and empower people. So you might recognize some of these folks online, some of the top podcasts in America. I also had the pleasure of being on Kevin Harrington's Sharkpreneur podcast, and then he was on my show. And he's looking at the Deferred Sales Trust. He's not a client yet or a strategic alliance, but we are courting him for that right now. That being said, it wasn't always easy. Okay. My first year in the business, I was not Leonardo DiCaprio. In fact, I was one of the guys in the back scratching my head trying to figure how this whole thing worked. I saw these people making large deals, large transactions, and I was just like, I was the apprentice, right? I was just learning a little bit, and I had a lot to learn, a lot to grow with. But my cousin was in front of me, and he was kind of my mentor, and he taught me a whole lot. And he was making these big deals happen, and I would just listen on the phones. We'd make cold calls, listen in the meetings, and I was trying to make it in the business. See, I was brand new. I was just married. My wife's at home with our first baby, and it was really tough. I wasn't making a lot of money, to be honest. It was very below, a lot of times around 25,000, 40,000. It wasn't a lot, but I was determined to make it happen. And I loved real estate. I loved helping people. I loved solving challenges. But I don't know if you've ever been so scared where you weren't sure how you're going to be able to support your family, where everything has been a success. You see, I grew up in sports, and I grew up in an entrepreneurial family with my dad in real estate. And then you think, the degrees and everything's going to prepare you to make a bunch of money, but then you're not making a bunch of money, and you're like, wait, I'm failing. And that's how I felt. I felt really scared, and I didn't know. And also my parents were divorced when I was young, and my dad had a bunch of money and my mom didn't. And so as a part of that, it was also challenging too, those two different worlds. And I knew that I didn't want finances ever to come between my family or be a problem. I knew I wanted to work really hard and just not have to think about that as much as I did growing up. And so I was determined to win, and I just started to get some momentum, just started to learn, and all of a sudden 2008 hit, right? And oh my gosh, that everything hit a brick wall. Not only for myself, but for my clients. And this became a part where I remember just breaking down crying in my mentor's office, just like, I'm doing everything I possibly can, I feel like, and every deal that I even had going on is now blown apart, and what am I going to do? And it was just so much stress, but it wasn't only for me, it was for my clients too. You see, they went to a point where they were losing everything, or losing half of their values, or having to fight with banks. And so at the time, I actually was still selling some real estate, but this is a deal, 7 units in Marysville. This is near Sacramento. 7 units. Can you imagine buying it for $129,000 total? Okay, not per unit, total, right? I just sold a deal for $270,000 per unit just a few months ago, and this one was for 7 units. It was a foreclosure, and my before my split was about $3,800, and then I had to divide that with Marcus & Millichap by 2, and then it's $1,900 before tax. So not easy, right? But I was committed. I wanted to make it in the business. So I said, I've got to win. I've got to win. How do I win? Well, just keep growing, right? Keep growing professionally, keep learning, and keep adding value to my clients. And so I did what every good entrepreneur or realtor does when they're hitting a brick wall. They get a side hustle, and they continue to do what they do. So I got a side hustle at Cheesecake Factory. This is in Roseville. This is actually my manager here on the left. I was one of the guys in the back. Actually, this wasn't me, but it probably looked kind of like me. But I would wear the same tie that I wore at Marcus & Millichap, making cold calls all day. But nights and weekends, I'd be serving cheesecake and food, and as a server. And so the manager told me, look, Brett, if I'm going to hire you, I need 2 years commitment from you. because I don't want to train you and you to go close a deal and you're gone. I said, no matter what, I will give you 2 years. And here's why. I have a wife at home. This is our dream. She wants to stay home with our daughter. And I've got to win. I've got to make this work. And I love real estate. So he agreed. I agreed. And fast forward, I was able to succeed in the business. But let me back up. I actually needed a way to add value. So values have dropped. Clients were chasing, banks were chasing them, and debt was piling up, and folks were looking for a solution. And so this is when I learned about the Deferred Sales Trust. And I don't know if you've ever been in a moment where someone comes in and they teach you about something and it changes everything. Well, that's what happened. My business partner now, his name is Robert Binkley, and he came in and he told me about this Deferred Sales Trust at Marcus and Millichap. In fact, my manager flew in, and my manager had him into the office. There's about 30 of us all learning about this. And I'm going, wow, does this thing really work? Wow, could this have actually solved all of the challenges for our clients? Wow, they could have been out of debt, tax deferred, and they could have been diversified. This sounds like it's too good to be true. Is it really going to work? So I started to learn more and started to implement the strategy, and I saw my business grow. And fast forward, that was over 10 years ago. My wife has been able to stay home full time. She's loved that, raising our 5 kids, 4 daughters and 1 son. Now I travel, less travel now with COVID-19, but I would travel all over speaking and training people, business professionals mainly, on the Deferred Sales Trust. And I've been successful in real estate too. My business of real estate has grown because I add more value to my clients. So I discovered the hard way to do this. It took me 10 years, but how many of you want to learn the easy way? Okay, how many of you want to learn the easy way? I want to try to give you as many secrets as I can right now in the next 30 or so minutes. By the way, if you've been struggling or if your clients have been struggling, it's not your fault. And this is why. Your CPA or their CPA doesn't know about this, or you had a realtor, you haven't had a realtor who has walked in your shoes, walk you step by step on how this thing works. They just haven't been trained on it. And that's how I was. I hadn't been trained on it. So how am I going to be able to guide somebody through? Well, that's what we're going to introduce you to right now. So by the way, what's the hard way? Well, the hard way is a 1031 exchange. Again, it doesn't even work for primary homes. But if you had a chance to do a 1031 exchange, this is part of what happened in 2008. In 05, 06, 07, people had overpaid, had doubled down, had exchanged for a higher priced property with more debt, and just to see values drop drastically, and just to see themselves having to chase that equity for a number of years and to recover, especially in California, where I'm from. But if you're going to do a 1031, it's like the blockbuster way of doing things. It's very, very challenging, and there's lots of costs. You have to identify properties. You have to hire a broker. You have to pay the commissions. You have to find that deal. But remember, a lot of these baby boomers, they don't want new management, new toilets, new liabilities. In fact, we just closed a deal recently with a gentleman. His name was Peter, and Peter was a baby boomer, and he owned 18 units in Sacramento. And 3 days a week, he's driving back and forth from the Bay Area, fighting traffic, trying to collect rents. It was kind of a lower income area, but he's trying to serve the tenants the best he can, but he's turning 70 years old, and he's just kind of getting tired. And he goes, Brett, I'd like to be done with all this. I go, okay, well, let's walk through that. What would you like to do? Well, spend more time with my family. Now I have to sit in traffic, do some more time with my hobbies, enjoy my wealth. You see, Brett, I've made enough wealth. I don't necessarily need more wealth. And I have about 18 units, and really it's about 18 problems. That's the way I see it. And I go, okay. I go, but what happens if you were to do a 1031 exchange? He goes, well, Brett, I have 18 problems. You don't get it. I don't want 36 problems, right? I don't want to just get more problems. I want 0 problems. So can I pay off my debt? Can I get tax deferred? Can I be diversified? Can I be liquid with the funds? And can I get a payment stream coming in? The answer was yes to all of those. And he says, I'm in. I'm doing it. So he did it. That was Peter's story. You can watch Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, and you can hear his story directly. But all that being said, let's walk through how this all works in the next 30 minutes, okay? So first of all, there's basically 3 secrets to helping your clients obtain what's called a transformational exit plan or wealth plan. And secret number 1 is selling and deferring hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in capital gains tax. How to help your clients to legally break free from capital gains tax when selling their luxury home or investment real estate without ever worrying about a 1031 exchange ever again. Secret number 2, we call it the capital gains tax realtor sales funnel cloning. How to clone a proven sales funnel in less than 3 hours and escape having to compete for high net worth clients like every other realtor, and instead diversify your marketing with the highest bottom line savings in the history of the world. And that's the capital gains tax savings you're going to help them defer. And number 3, I call this a team collaboration hack, how to get your deferred sales trust to work in your favor and become an automated system and not a distraction. Because let's face it, as realtors and real estate professionals, we don't need another distraction, another marketing thing, another marketing gimmick. We need real value right now, where I can walk into a listing appointment and say, I'm going to save you $1 million of capital gains tax, or I'm going to save your failed 1031 exchange. I'm going to give you a backup plan, and I'm going to do it right now for you. Would you list with me? And when you give those type of value to clients, all of a sudden, a lot of that other stuff goes away. What your commission is, a lot of the objections go away because you're bringing so much tangible value. So this is secret number 1. Let's talk about how to do this, okay? So remember the challenge. The client feels trapped. He's trying to sell his business, primary home, investment, real estate. By the way, it could be cryptocurrency, it could be public stock, private stock. And he wants to defer the tax, but it's somewhere between 30 and 50% of the tax is going to be, or the gain is going to be wiped out by the capital gains tax. By the way, it hurts to 1031 exchange. He gets frustrated. He doesn't want to do all that, right? We know that story. So what's step number 1? Well, step number 1 is help your clients determine their capital gains tax liability and ask them to envision their ideal wealth plan. So, Mr. Seller, you're selling we'll just talk about a deal we just closed in Alabama, $2.6 million sale, 0 basis. He owed $600,000 of liability. It's actually a business sale. So we did the math. Okay, you have a 0 basis, 2.6, you're going to owe 600,000. Do you want to pay that, or do you want to pay some fees and close on the deferred sales trust? He goes, I want to pay some fees and close on the deferred sales trust. Great. What do you want to do with that money? Well, I'd like to invest it in some stocks, bonds, mutual funds. I'd also like to build some real estate. Can I build some real estate with it? Yes, you can build some real estate. So he's building 80 units in Tennessee. So not only is he transferring, and he's not a baby boomer, he's younger, he's transferring out of his old business into a new business, all tax deferred. He's using the money that he would have paid in capital gains tax and as a part of his to fund his next venture, all tax deferred. And so that was his wealth plan. And so it fit perfect for him. So you're going to help him do that. Step number 2 is you're going to give him a side-by-side comparison of the deferred sales trust versus a Delaware statutory trust versus a 1031 versus an opportunity zone versus a charitable remainder trust. Now, we're here to help you with that, right? We don't want you to become the expert. We want you to become the expert, but we understand it's going to take some time. And so we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But we want to basically give them a chance to get a comparison. What are your options and what's going to help you to get to that wealth plan? And let's compare it side by side versus those things, okay? And then step 3 is to talk with some successful clients of ours who have used the deferred sales trust. Step 4 is to fund the trust. The funds typically go to a bank, and then they go to TD Ameritrade, where they have 24/7 access to view the funds. But how does this whole thing work? Okay, great question. I'm glad you asked. And by the way, if anyone wants to volunteer, you can put in the chat, I'm ready, because I'm going to walk through this and try to get some audience participation. So put in the chat, I'm ready, if you'd like to do that. And then I'm going to walk through this right now. Okay, so we're going to do, let's do the deal that just closed actually last week. It was for $8.3 million, and it was a primary home in Palo Alto. Okay. All right. So primary home, remember there's no 1031. He had a basis of around $6 million. Okay. And he's looking at capital gains tax, substantial. I think it was somewhere around, let's just do the math because he was single. Let's see here, 6 million, 2.3 million is the gain minus the 250,000 is the exclusion. He was looking at about 33%, about $676,000. Okay. So if he did nothing, he paid that. Okay. We define losing as paying the tax. We define winning as tax deferral. So what did he do? Well, instead of buying or selling directly to the cash buyer and having all of the funds go to him and having that tax triggered here, he used the trust. And that's the first concept to understand. It's what's called constructive or actual receipt. If he were to receive all $8.3 million, that tax is triggered if he receives that directly. But if he uses the trust and right before close of escrow, sells the asset for 8.3, who turns around and sells it for 8.3, and he receives a 0 down payment. He did a seller carryback. How much tax does he owe on $0? Well, the answer is 0. But what did he get in exchange for that? Well, he got a promissory note. Now, this particular client had some debt on the property, and we paid off that debt, and so he got a different amount. But to keep it simple, we're going to imagine he owned it free and clear. So it'll be about 8.3 million here. Okay, he received a 0 down payment, and he saved about $676,000. Okay. Now, if the trust bought and sold for the same price, guess what? 0 gain. Cash buyer, he brings the cash the same way he would have, and he's actually just going to buy it from the trust. And this is the cool part, in that it's actually just kind of like 2 transactions. It's like a simultaneous close. The 8.3 million will go into the trust. Okay. So again, real quick, he sold it to the trust for 8.3, okay? And the trust sold it for the same price. So the trust has a 0 gain. Yeah, that's correct. So the trust has no tax. That's right. So that's good to go. The buyer takes title the same way he would have. He's good to go, okay? And the seller took a promissory note. All right, so he took a 0 down payment, so he's in a tax-deferred state, okay? So where do the funds go? Well, go to a bank. Let's put 8 million here to keep it simple. And now there's a promissory note. What's the note? Well, it's typically around 8% on the net equity in the account over a 10-year period of time. Most of our clients take like a 5% payout, but it's entirely up to them. So remember that about 676 up here? Well, what happened to that? Well, it's all still in there. So you're telling me, Brett, we're making an extra 8% off of this 676? Yes. Well, what's the government charging you for this? 0%. Really? Yeah. How long can I do it for? For as long as you want. Can I pass it to my kids? Yes, you can pass it to your kids. Okay, so I walk in for this listing appointment. So you're saying if I just present this and I can show them how I can save them $676,000 using the DST? Yeah, that's what we're saying. It's exactly what we're saying. You added $676,000 of value in our book, right? That's pretty cool, right? That's pretty cool. And now they receive payments, and they'll pay tax as they receive payments. They'll pay ordinary income tax on anything that's interest payments. If they dip into principal, they'll pay some capital gains tax. Okay, let's see, it's 8%. But again, that's an extra 8.8% on 676. So that's just one deal. Another deal, again, was a $2.6 million sale, and we saved them $600,000 of tax. We're saving a failed 1031 exchange next week, or a week and a half, and that's a $5.5 million deal, and we're saving him about $1.5 million in tax. That's pretty cool. Okay, so that's it. That's how it works. Now, you can go back and watch that again and again and again, but realize we're the experts here, and we'll get this done for you. Thousands of closes now with the DST tax attorneys, and we will guide you through all of this, okay? All right, so who this works for? Remember, it works for a primary homeowner, 1.5 million or more. It works for a business owner. There's been car dealership deals. There's been tech entrepreneurs, dentists, veterinarians, optometrists have used this. It works for collectibles, artwork. It works for cryptocurrency. It works for real estate syndicators, developers, operators, S Corps, C Corps. It works for all types of high net worth clients. This is a deal I recently did. I actually was the multifamily broker on this property. I listed it and sold it for a 4.3 cap, $270,000 a unit. And this is Steve, my client. This is John. They thought they had a 1031. They're ready to 1031. John had a family emergency, had to bail, left Steve with only half of the down payment to buy the more units. So he couldn't do the 1031, so we saved his failed 1031. He's really happy, saved him hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax. Also, then COVID-19 hit, and he's going, man, I'm glad because I think there's going to be some opportunities here in the future. This is another client of mine. He sold his own business. He's actually a transactional attorney in Nevada, and then he used the Deferred Sales Trust. And these are a few other deals that have traded recently or under contract. This is the actual deal in Cupertino I was telling you about. This is the $3.1 million home. She's actually, or was retired, an engineer at Google. So really, really, really smart, and looked at this from every single angle she possibly could. And she's happy, and she's actually giving us referrals now, which is great. So at the heart of all of this, though, besides just the money part of it, what I want to really hopefully communicate to you is the transformation and opportunity you have to help your clients to be debt-free, tax-deferred, wealth diversified. What does that mean? Well, they can invest it into stocks, bonds, mutual funds. They can put it into real estate if they want to. It can be in multiple product types and locations. They can do it at any time they want to, right? Which is optimal timing. Their wealth can also be liquid, right? Meaning it's at the bank, it's at TD Ameritrade, and they can cash out and just pay the tax whenever they want. But a lot of our clients, they want time to enjoy their wealth. No more toilets, no more trash, no more liability, no more debt, right? If they don't want any more debt. No more rent laws or eviction laws or rent control laws. And then hopefully buy when it makes sense, right? Do you think there's going to be some opportunities coming up in investment real estate? We do. Might take a year, might take 6 months, might take 2 years, but we think there's going to be some opportunities. And then the chance to just transfer the wealth, which is really nice. So how do we know this whole thing is legal, right? How do I know my funds are protected? I'm glad you asked. First thing is to understand is track record. Thousands of successful deferred sales trust closes. Not to be confused with Delaware Statutory Trust. Over 25-year track record, okay? 15 no change IRS audits, which is really important to understand. You want to make sure if your clients are going to go into something that particular strategy has been tested by the IRS. Okay. There's also audit defense and indemnification for every deal by the Deferred Sales Trust tax attorneys, which is pretty amazing. Also, how do you know the funds are protected? So our role as the trustee, one of the biggest questions I get is, well, okay, Brett, you seem like a good guy, but what happens if you wake up tomorrow and want to be a bad guy? Can you take the money? The answer is no. They're held at a bank account, which is it's a multi-billion-dollar bank, and they provide what's called direct access control agreement. It's kind of like an escrow, meaning the funds only ever move with the client's signature. Okay, very, very important. Step number 2. Okay, so that was step number 1. Step number 2. Okay, so you're a realtor, you're a professional, you're curious about adding this. Well, I don't want to get bogged down and become a CPA, all that stuff. Great, neither do we. We don't want you either. We want you to just give you a proven sales funnel, right? Make a couple videos. We already have the sales copy. We already have everything. And then you can point your potential clients to there. I also want to give you a landing page, a deferred sales trust calculator. Okay, so when it comes up, you can send them there and they can learn 90% of it within about an hour or 30 minutes of watching some videos. So we want to teach you how to clone. Just clone a funnel, okay, and help your clients defer the tax. All right. So, but if you're curious about if this is going to work for somebody, right? What's step number 1? Well, you can literally log into Redfin right now, and you can, if you're in the highly appreciated place, you could find a potential deal. So here's just a sample deal, a random deal, 1018 Fulton Street. All right, this is 55475, okay, is the number, right, that they're trying to sell it for. You can go to the property history, you click on that link, and you see, oh, in 2007, they bought it for 2.8. All right, let's do the math. Well, 5475123, that's the sales price. 2.8, just in case they're married, let's add an extra $500,000. Okay, so that's 3.3. So we take the 5.475 minus the 3.3. Well, that's 2.175. Okay, and now let's take that by 30%. That's $652,000 of tax savings right there. It's all there for you. You can log in 10 seconds, do the math. You can call them and say, hey, are you considering selling your home? Yeah, I've been kind of considering it. Okay, great. Well, would you be open to a pricing analysis? Or I might be, but I have my cousin or friend or somebody else who's my realtor. Okay, but what if I could help you save $652,000? Well, what do you mean? Well, you bought the house for 2.8 in 2007, and you're selling it for, potentially 5.4 based upon the value. I think I can save you $652,000. Would you be open to seeing that? And if I could show you that, would you consider listing the property with me? If they say no to that, then too bad, But I think they say yes. I think they'd be open to that, right? Because you're going to save them a lot of money. Step number 3, you're going to map out the liability by entering the information into a CRM. And that CRM will give a side-by-side comparison. And that'll track all the deals for you too. Step number 4, you just present the savings and you list and sell the asset. You do a listing presentation. As a part of your listing presentation, you're going to talk about your fees and closing costs and all of those things. But you're also going to say, hey, look, here are the savings we're going to provide for you, $650,000. And here's what it means for your bottom line if you work with me. Step number 5 is they close and the client funds the deferred sales trust and they see all of the funds in their account. And step number 6 is they're really happy. They're likely to send you more referrals. And I would encourage you to host an open house right before close of escrow or sometime during it. And you have the client share their story and hopefully get more listings from more people who are just sitting there ready to sell their houses, but are not because of the capital gains tax. We see it over and over and over again, okay? So that's it. Remember what your clients used to have to do. They used to have to stay in their primary home, not sell a business, overpay for a 1031 property, become the lender for the single buyer, which is not good, not diversified, stay in debt, have all of their time and energy and stress that's associated, or just pay the tax. So it's a new way, it's a better way. It's the Netflix, it's the Airbnb, it's the Uber way of doing it now, and it's called the Deferred Sales Trust. So who here thinks the Deferred Sales Trust is amazing, is awesome, is transformational? We hope you do by now, but if not, we'll keep going here, okay? So that is secret number 2, but here is secret number 3. Team collaboration hack, how to get the Deferred Sales Trust to work in your favor and become an automated system and not a distraction. So remember I told you about Peter earlier? This is Peter, who lives in Marin, California. He's actually a realtor himself for 30 years and all mostly single family primary homes, but he's owned multifamily. And so his biggest thing was like, Brett, I wanted freedom, right? And I have a hard time gaining freedom from my assets. I felt really wealthy, but a lot of my wealth was tied into my real estate. But my time and energy was getting pulled out all the time. And so he says, Brett, it's a relief to be rid of the apartment building. It was a very lucrative investment, but it came with a lot of headaches and it took up my time and energy. Well, he is sure happy he did it. He actually sold his apartments for about $1.8 million. He put about $1.3 million into the trust. He paid off $500,000 of debt, and he deferred about $550,000 of taxes. Pretty amazing, really amazing. And he did that all before COVID-19, which he's really happy he did. So what's your step to actually getting this funnel going? Well, we actually already have a funnel built. We use ClickFunnels, and we can literally clone the funnel and make a 3-minute video, and away you go. Step number 2 is you send your clients to a CRM, which we can set up for you as a realtor. It's no cost for this CRM, which is pretty cool. And they can enter in, this is actually my landing page. So we go from the funnel to the CRM landing page, and it's a calculator actually. They fill out some questions. And then we set up a call with myself, you, and your client, and we kind of walk through it. And then from there, we go to the tax attorney if it's a viable deal, okay? Leads come in, and you can also coach and tell some of your outer team about the Deferred Sales Trust. Who's that? Well, that could be the mortgage broker you work with. That could be the financial advisor that you work with. That could be the business professional or business broker or the commercial real estate professional you work with. And basically, if you can educate them and help them grow their business too, then they're going to send you more referrals because you're helping people defer hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in capital gains tax. We recently just did a deal. It was a $7.6 million sale, and we helped the gentleman who was selling 128 units in Georgia, and he deferred about $1.1 million in tax. We actually saved his failed 1031 exchange, and the financial advisor has a chance to manage all of those funds, which is pretty sweet. And so when you show them how that works and how this works, they're more likely to send you more referrals and vice versa, okay? So also, it separates the partnership. So if you have any deals where clients are like, hey, you know what, I like to sell, but my partner doesn't want to sell, oftentimes it's because one wants a 1031 and the other one doesn't want to pay the tax in 1031. So when you come here, you can go separate. One partner can go here and the other partner can go here. In fact, we just did a $20 million deal in Vegas, and that's exactly what happened. They sold this big apartment complex, and the assets were separated into 2 different trusts. In other words, the whole entity doesn't have to move. It's a seamless partnership separation. So those are the 3 secrets, okay? So I want to I want you to ask yourself if you just modeled what worked, okay? If you just modeled what worked and you set up a call with your trusted CPA, maybe it's the managing broker of your office, and you set it up with capital gains tax solutions to confirm this thing is legal and it works and it has the track record and all those things. And then if you were to sit down with capital gains tax solutions to map out how the Deferred Sales Trust works, and if you were to sit down with us as well and map out how to clone a funnel and make a 3-minute video to use the automated CRM, do you see how you could actually do this? How it actually is not, there's just a couple steps here, and we're gonna guide you, but do you see how you could do that, okay? So let me ask you a question. You probably feel like this little girl. Actually, I have 5 kids, and one of my daughters is about this girl's age. This is not my daughter, but you're probably feeling like this fire hose, right? And it does feel pretty overwhelming. So let me just ask you this question. And you give me 10 more minutes because I want to make you a special offer. Okay. And do you want my help to do this is really what I'm asking you here. Do you want my help to be able to do this? And as a part of that, we have access to education, deal stories, videos, anything you need to help you and your clients understand this, okay? Because it is complex and it can be overwhelming, but the key is to be proactive and to plan. And so we've had some of the best in the industry actually interview me, and you can hear them interview me on all the major platforms, okay? So who this works for, again, it works for high-end primary homeowners, business owners, car dealerships, tech entrepreneurs, dentists, veterinarians, optometrists, collectibles, artwork, cryptocurrency. It works for S Corps, C Corps, LLCs. It works for any type of highly appreciated property. You can see why these clients are paying us up to $100,000 to set up a deferred sales trust for them, right? You probably could see, maybe, perhaps, if we're saving them millions of dollars of tax. Dave, we saved him 1.1 million. I think Steve, we saved him around like 500,000. Glenn, we saved him around, I think his deal was a little bit smaller, about 200,000. Maxine was 400,000. Peter was 550,000. So you could see how they might pay 100,000, but we're not going to charge you 100,000, nor are we going to charge your clients that. And by the way, I know this sounds too good to be true. You get a lot of offers, but don't worry. We have a reference list you can check out with, and we have some of the best financial professionals. We've done deals with Keller Williams, with Old Republic Title. We've done deals with Marcus and Millichap. We've done deals with Exchange Solutions, with Legal 1031. We have thousands of business professionals that have already signed up and that are already using this. Over 400 million, I believe, closed last month alone across the U.S. So we have the track record. Also, there's no cost on our side unless your client actually does the deal. 100%, no cost, no obligation, due diligence, which is pretty cool. So your clients can get started today for 1.5% of the closing cost, and it's about 1.5% recurring, depending on a recurring fee, depending on the size of the deal, and we can get you that fee breakdown. If you're a business professional and you're listening to this and you want to get started right away, you can go to experttaxsecrets.com and you can get started for about $197 to get started on the educational process. You can upgrade for all of the funnels and all of the sales copy. So with that, I want to open it up for questions, and I appreciate everyone being here. By the way, here's a fee example too, so you can type your questions if you have any questions. But here is a sample deal. So let's say it's a $10 million deal, and they were going to pay $4 million in tax. They have 1.5% to close, and they have a 1.5% recurring. So on the first year, it's the biggest fee. It's called about $300,000. But on that size of deal, we do go a little bit lower. 9.7 million net versus 6 million. So with the deferred sales trust, it's an extra 3.7. So the heart of this is you got to make sure that the tax is big enough to pay for the fees. So with that, I will open it up for questions from anybody. And go ahead, you can unmute yourself, and you could just ask away, or you can type it into the chat. I'm double checking the feed here. And if I don't have any questions, that's cool too. That means I just did an amazing job here. And if you are a client listening to this, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can call this number. And then again, experttaxsecrets.com if you are a business professional and looking to add this to your service. And with that, if there's no questions, then we're good. We're set. And I appreciate everyone's time today, and I wish everybody well. And thank you so much for attending the webinar. And goodbye, everybody. If it still works. It takes a little time to close it out. Bye again.